Hey, welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope everybody enjoyed our Media Day coverage this week. Appreciate the Miami Heat for setting up all those interviews, and I wish I would have been able to stick around longer. You know, normally I could basically stay there the entire time it's going, but I had the pregame show to go do. But I was pretty happy with everybody. I thought everybody was fantastic. Favorite revelations from all the interviews before I get into some training camp stuff here. Bam talking about, I know today it went a little semi-viral on Heat Twitter, talking about the 3-pointer thing and how many he plans on taking. And mind you, people were getting a little crazy about the number of 100. I based it, first I said I was a little ridiculous in the interview, and I said 200. And then Leroy kind of shot me the look like that's ridiculous, and he's probably right. But 100 to at least, I think, is a good place to be. I think if he goes from like 100 to 120 is probably the most realistic area that he would be at. I know everybody kind of found that interesting, but it's been fascinating hearing him talk about how Erik Spoelstra and him kind of got away from being in the grind of Heat culture. I think both of these guys are very much wired in a lot of the same ways, and will maybe sacrifice aesthetics for things just for the betterment of the team and put everything they can into it. So I think it was kind of cool that they did get that time away. It almost reminds me a little bit of when Spo got Dwayne Wade back the second time around. He's talked about it a lot, that his relationship was a lot different with Dwayne Wade, hair down a little bit more when Dwayne Wade came back from the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I think that time away from the grind of the Heat, Bam says that was very beneficial. Very, very beneficial. I know he was talking to Ethan a little bit about that after practice yesterday. Ethan Skolnick from 5 Reasons. Go check out their stuff too. And I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting that he, says like Spo saw him in this setting. He was his shagging coach, as he was saying in our interview, and then was saying after practice today that that getting away was a real benefit to them from being out of the Heat culture machine. So I thought that was interesting. But I also found interesting from Bam. Man, you mentioned I mentioned that the talking about not playing him at certain times in the Olympics. And I was alluding, of course, to the Brian Windhorst segment, which, of course, Bam responded to on Twitter. Man, he's still pissed about that. That seemed like genuine frustration from him that people had the audacity to mention his name, because he feels like he always kind of gets picked on in these moments of guys who, I don't know, the national media doesn't care about their feelings, but they'll go and talk about somebody else like they're being wronged. So I thought that was the most fascinating thing from that one. Nico, the stuff on Jimmy Butler, if you guys haven't checked that out, I thought it was really, really awesome. And I do think the Spoelstra dynamic of this is very interesting, because another thing that Bam was talking about today after practice was he feels like Kel'el Ware is going to have to deal with hazing from Erik Spoelstra. And this has been the fascinating thing about going into this season, right? Because Erik Spoelstra's kind of cemented, it seems like, 4 guys who are going to play a lot together. Not necessarily starters, but it's going to be Jimmy, Bam, Terry, Tyler, right? It seems that way based on his media day comments. Although I believe he said that there are no free rides, no free tickets. I forget the exact phrasing that he said, but everybody's going to have to go earn their stuff. But it seems like those guys are pretty much cemented as 4, though Tyler Hero was a lot more open to coming off the bench and leaving that in the hands of the coach. Maybe he was that positive about it because he knows he's not. But he said all the right things. Like I said a couple videos ago, Pat Riley had to be thrilled about the marching, the everybody marching in the same direction when it came to public comments. And the vibes do seem happy. The vibes do seem happy. Even if you just go by, everybody makes a big, Jimmy's not connected with the team as much. You see him and Tyler playing dominoes on social media. So it does feel like this team where I think everybody maybe got a little sick of each other. I think all of this time away and then different settings of things, before games start, at least this camp, the energy does palpably feel a little bit better. The vibes were very good on media day. Everybody was very loose. Kind of alluded to that in the summer with this not being a summer of questioning and moving on and all that. Other than the Jimmy stuff, that was really the only wild card. And he kind of he pretty much squashed that in the early goings of it. But I found fascinating today, Bam was asked about Kel'el Ware and his relationship and what wisdom he's going to pass off to Kel'el. And he said that, in his words, Erik Spoelstra is going to haze him this year.
For me, it's just telling him to be patient, take his time, because in training camp, it's a lot. It's a lot going on. It's a lot of moving parts. So, I just try to tell him, just figure it out as you go. Like, Spo gonna yell at you. It's guaranteed. You're the rook. I mean, you're gonna get rookie hazed. It is what it is. But you gotta take that with a grain of salt and really get the message. And he's been coming back every day better and better.
This is gonna be the fascinating thing for me when it comes to Kel'el, because Spo said an interesting thing at media day about Kel'el, about they did more film work and work on him more than any other prospect, really, because there were so many questions about his motor, the speed he plays at, because Spo demands a lot of bigs from an energy standpoint, and especially coming in for Bam Adebayo. That's why him and Precious Achiuwa didn't really mesh. Precious did not just bring that balls to the wall energy all the time. Some of the same issues that Nick Nurse had with him in Toronto. You talk about three coaches that he's had that demand that: Spo, Nick Nurse, Tom Thibodeau, and everybody looks at Precious Achiuwa and how explosive the guy could be. But, I think Precious fancies himself a perimeter guy, not a big man, even though big man is where he would probably make his oodles of money. That's neither here nor there. He's not on the Heat anymore. But we go to Nico. So Nico, very younger, one of the younger prospects the Heat have worked on, but a lot of my conversation with Jovic was about Erik Spoelstra and how he gained that trust and how Jimmy was a big support system for that. And Jimmy kind of publicly going to bat for Nico against what the Heat's idea was, which was to play him at the 5. He's like, he's not a 5. Why are we square peg round hole? Why are we trying to do this? But it's going to be fascinating to see if Kel'el can kind of break the mold of rookie big men who are going to get a significant role. One, because they have Kevin Love, they have Nikola Jovic. Nico's kind of, I would believe, the penciled in power forward. It's in pencil, not pen. I believe that Kevin Love is probably penciled into where he played last year. But I think we're all very intrigued by what Kel'el can bring to the table and making the Heat rise a little bit, because those are those X factors we're always talking about, right? So if he can break the mold of getting through. Now, mind you, one of the things that's a benefit, while Spo in Bam's rookie year, and Bam has made this very public, he was not happy with Erik Spoelstra's rookie year because he thought he should have been playing more. And it was a little bit tenacious. It was a little touch and go. And the other thing about that is different is you also are kind of dealing with a big who is getting on the outs with Hassan Whiteside, right? In this case, you have Kel'el here, and the question is, for his Heat ceiling, how do him and Bam play together? How does that become a thing? And this is the interesting blend that the Heat are at right now with some of their young talent. Have Jaime. How do you find a place where Jaime is as effective? Can Jaime be in that 6th man of the year role? I think he can. Now, for Nico, Kel'el, Bam, to expect all these guys to be playing crazy minutes is probably unreasonable. But I do think that one of the benefits of having Bam as a captain, and I think, walking with an air of confidence even more than he did last year. I think last year, Bam Adebayo comes in. He becomes the captain, right? Gets the title from Udonis Haslem, right? And it's probably an awkward thing because it's like, UD's not here anymore. Never been the most vocal guy. That's not his style. But I do think one of the things the Olympics bought Bam, and this has been touched on from some interviews with Spo, is that Erik Spoelstra saw the respect that the best players had in the game for him. He wasn't the 14th overall pick who had built himself up into something. These guys look at him as a peer. And there was talks in the Olympics about how much more vocal Bam was, even just shouting things out off the bench, yelling at LeBron, about instructions and things like that. And I think that there is this grown man element, 8 years for Bam. And I think that's the perfect guy for Kel'el to be able to lean on. Their locker mates, they're right next to each other. At least they were when I went on the tour. I guess I'll confirm that first preseason game, which is next week. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see where he fits into all of this, because you see the size. I don't know if you guys caught, but Miami's YouTube channel, I've said this on the radio show today, but just tremendous work by the Miami Heat content team to start putting practice stuff up there. You got a little fast break drill going on, and you saw one little Jimmy bounce pass dunk to Kel'el, and I was like, that's pretty goosies right there, dude. And not only that, I want them to not stop doing the fast break, Joe, because my God, do they need to get better at that? That was, you want to talk about something they stunk at. There's going to be a lot of talk about the Miami Heat developing a better offense today. A lot of talks about how do they get themselves in better, more uncontested shots. How do they deal with the Jimmy double teams? How do they just run as a unit better? And it's not maybe as simple as just more threes. It's can they get the decision to get the better shot and the more efficient shot? So will be a fascinating process to check out for sure. But I am very curious if Kel'el can break the big man mold, so to speak, when it comes to Erik Spoelstra and how hard he typically is, not just on rookies, but rookie bigs. That, to me, is always at a little bit different of a level because he is going to be looked upon to be providing things defensively. He is. And then the offense is going to be there. Catch the lobs. You're not going to necessarily stop and popping and hitting a bunch of threes. So this is it's going to be a great test for the warehouse early on.